So politics really is not just about people shouting and screaming in parliament. It's really not about the character assassination which occasionally takes place. That's actually just like 1% of the politics. If that speech causes discomfort, offense, at times even anger, that's the speech which we need to protect, because at times the toughest speeches to consume or to digest are the ones which bring the biggest social impact.
Hi. So today we can all see that we have our quite famous representative from the parliament is like our YB Syed Saddiq on our Kangi studio. So thank you for making your time for us today, and thank you for having us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I don't think that we need any further introduction of you. Okay, so and then as I get the green light is that I can call you Saddiq.
Sure.
Okay,
Much better.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Saddiq, I'll just go and jump into the first question we have in mind.
Yeah.
So you have always been so vocal and outspoken when it comes to injustice, unfair treatment and other social issues. So were you always that outspoken since you were young?
I wouldn't say so. I come from a lower middle income family. My mum was a teacher and my father was a labourer who commuted from Johor to Singapore every day. So politics and outspokenness were never in my blood. I think my changing point was when I entered the Royal Military College during my high school days. It's a military college, which I did 2 years. I completed my SPM at. That gave me a sense of awakening, because I realized that in order for Malaysia to become a successful country, it requires a collective effort. And that collective effort can only be perfected when we speak up for one another, treat each other as brothers and sisters, whose success comes when we assist one another. Plus military college with my debating background, a little bit, which I only started when I got into military college as well. That's why I started loving speaking about social, political, economic issues. When I got into debating, you debate about every single issue, whether it is on justice, pop culture, geopolitics, and you're given such a short time span where you're expected to read up about everything and anything and being able to speak from a position of authority. But then I thought, what's the purpose of only winning trophies and conquering the world in debating, but in the end it's only limited within the scope of a debate competition? So the combination of patriotism from military college and debating, which gave a sense of outspokenness and purpose, I think merging those two then got me to become a lot more outspoken in life. From my mum, it's very different. I think my mum has always been my strongest support structure, to some extent also my idol. So it's not in terms of politics. For my mum, it is in terms of service, where my mum will never allow someone who comes from an underprivileged background to just, without doing anything about it. My mum will always try to make the person's life better. One of my most vivid memories is whenever I come back from school with my mum is a teacher, my mum always stopped at the Caltex near my house. I don't know whether there's Caltex today or not, but then Caltex, and there will always be a bunch of young kids there who will be selling like fruits and everything else, illegally of course. And then my mum will call one by one of them. Initially they'll be very scared. Why is my mum, who's also a disciplinary teacher, calling them up? And then my mum will ask like, can you please give me your parents' phone number? And in actuality my mum did that because my mum wanted to offer free tuition to them for a long period of time, so that then they can speak better English, better knowledge, and as a consequence become better students who then can serve the family better. My mum always had that track record of service, something which I appreciate a lot because that's made me a much better person.
One thing I read on the internet, so is it true that you really gave up your scholarship to Oxford University just to be active in politics?
Twice. First time I got to Oxford was in 2017. The second time was in 2018. It wasn't easy, to be honest. As you know, the admission into Oxford was not easy. What more into the School of Public Policy for my masters. And coming from a lower middle income family, a scholarship is the only way in which I could access studies into Oxford. Yeah, what more coming from a family of teachers? So losing a $500,000 scholarship was not easy. Not losing, but giving up. However, I think at that point in time, it was also a moment of awakening for me. I love this country. I knew what was happening to this country. Yeah, I can pick the easy route, which is to just leave. But I know that my conscience will always stay at home. And leaving then was just simply not an option, especially at the backdrop where my family was being threatened, I was being threatened. I thought if this could happen to us, it could happen to any other family in Malaysia. And I thought that politics, being the epicenter of change, would be the best place for us to change Malaysia for good via good policies, good systems, good governance. So yeah, that was the decision which was big, and I do not regret it.
So how did your family react? I mean, like, they support it all the way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a family man, so I obviously consulted my family, especially my parents. Obviously, they wanted me to go again. Same argument. At that point in time, politics was even more uncertain than today. There's never been a change in government in the history of Malaysia prior to 2018. And scholarship being awarded is not something which comes every day.
Yeah.
Especially to Oxford University. So it was not easy, but in the end, my family has always been my strong support structure. I had to convince them. I think in the end, they knew why I had to turn it down. They were very supportive, and until today, they're still supportive of me.
Was there a time that you were like saying you're almost giving up, like, okay, enough, I have enough of this shit, I don't care anymore?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are turbulent days where it is not easy to deal with politics. But as I got into politics, I knew that nation building is not an easy agenda. It's not meant to reward me personally or my family. In the end, I think I'm dead set in wanting to make Malaysia a developed country, and I knew that the road ahead will be paved with many sacrifices. But I am still privileged because today politics is still much better than decades ago, and there were many other people who made those sacrifices in wanting to move Malaysia forward. So if they could, why can't I? If they could sacrifice, what excuse do I have? So moving forward again will not be easy. There are days where it becomes remarkably tough, where you just feel like breaking down. But one thing which I know is I always will remind myself why I picked this path to begin with, knowing that this path would never be easy, and I'll just keep on charging forward.
Wow. So your family still remains your biggest support?
Yes.
Behind you.
Yep.
Okay. So because before we started this interview, I just mentioned that I've seen you on TikTok quite actively recently. So it's like very sporting. So this question is like, do you believe that YouTubers and influencers nowadays with this the social media, with the rise of that, so are great mediums to raise awareness or garner support, especially for politicians?
Definitely. I mean, it's not meant to garner support for politicians, but I think social media, like traditional media, play a pivotal role in shaping mindsets of our society. So I remember I got on TikTok during COVID lockdown. At that point in time, no politicians were ever on TikTok, and I was the first. I remember then people said, oh my god, why would anyone want to go on TikTok? It's not about dancing. I saw it something else. I saw it as a unique way to get my message out to a group which never cared about politics. And when I went on TikTok, I did many things. I talked about policies, I talked about issues and politics. I also crowdfunded for my constituency. I remember during lockdown where MUA was stripped of its constituency funds by the federal government, I went on TikTok to fundraise. And in the end, in about 2 years' time, we raised close to 5 million ringgit, much more than what the government could offer. And it came from tens and thousands of contributors. It's very unique ways, right, to pitch, okay, I want to raise money for 1,000 laptops and tablets. And I go on TikTok, I make that pitch, I make the short video, edit it, and I get the message out, and many people contributed. I did my botak challenge where I said, okay, if I get 200,000 ringgit of contribution for MUA, I'll go bald live on television. I say bald like bald. And to my surprise, we raised 400,000 ringgit. So there are actually many ways to do it, and that was one way I did it. I talk about politics, whether it's on the budget, whether it's on pay transparency, whether it's on paid internships, institutional reforms. It allows for me to get my message out without needing to spend so much money. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, you need to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to get your message out. Today is literally just picking up your phone, speaking with an authentic voice, and a little bit of editing, and you can get it out. So for me, it is for this purpose, which is on surveys and policies. But for other YouTubers or influencers, it may be about something else. Maybe they want to champion their own entertainment value, they want to champion the F&B industry, they want to champion different causes. Yeah, it's perfectly fine to do so. But I think this has given people a new voice to speak up on.
Okay, so building on that, so what are your thoughts on speech freedom? So because everyone goes online, so do you think the speech freedom in Malaysia, is it improving or what? What do you think?
Freedom of speech is very important because in the end, having a voice means having freedom and autonomy. Obviously, I think there are limitations. Let's say, for an example, where it may lead to actual physical harm. Let's say, for an example, I use my speech to cause a racial riot. Not racial disharmony, racial riot. That's definitely a limitation to it. And it's not just in Malaysia, even in the most developed of countries, where that speech may cause physical harm, I think there are limitations placed. However, if that speech causes discomfort, offense, at times even anger, that's the speech which we need to protect, because at times, the toughest speeches to consume or to digest are the ones which bring the biggest social impact. I mean, if you look at the days of Merdeka, I mean, these were speeches then which were considered to be seditious. So imagine if we disallowed then our forefathers to speak freely, we wouldn't be where we're at today. I mean, if you look at the days where many trade unions were speaking up about pay transparency, equal wages, those were discomforting. Some use very vulgar language, cause anger. Are we going to criminalize? I mean, so that's where, to me, just because the speech may be controversial, offensive, at times sparking anger, that's not a license to suppress freedom of speech. You must be exceptionally careful. The problem is today, usually you only suppress in the most exceptional of circumstances. Today we suppress most of the times. So it's the other way around. But I still think Malaysia, being a nascent democracy, I think is progressing. But there's a lot more work which we need to do to ensure that our country becomes a developed country.
So with this one, okay, so this is another question that I want to voice my opinion first. So first, I really believe that the country's future is in best hands with the young ones. Okay, so they have a better understanding. So in your opinion, so what are the most best ways or effective ways to encourage more young people to participate, to get involved? I'm guilty of this because I really not so care about our country. Maybe started like 10 years ago and I'm 40 now.
Fair enough. I think young people in Malaysia need to know that they may not care about politics, but politics will forever be there for them. Not necessarily in the best of ways. You may choose to exit politics, but politics will never exit you, in a way in which if you do not care, someone else will make that decision for you. If you do not turn up to vote, you don't speak up, someone else will speak up, and it will be their voice who will define your future. And let's say you are someone who care about the state of our education, believe in defending diversity, in having good public transportation, focus on taking care of the green lungs of the country, but then you choose to remain silent. And there's another person who stands in direct opposite to you, but speaks up, comes out to vote. It will be that person's voice which will shape your future. So that's politics, because politics is really the epicenter of change. Whether that change is for the good or bad really lies in the hands of the Malaysian public. So my message, instead of allowing others to shape your future, which may not be in your interest, it's better that we take ownership of our future and shape it for the future of our children and grandchildren. So politics really is not just about people shouting and screaming in parliament. It's really not about the character assassination which occasionally takes place. That's actually just like 1% of the politics. 99% is about shaping policies, about talking about education, talking about the state of our economy, looking at how we transition to become a climate resilient country, talking about public transportation, public healthcare. That's what politics is about. And in every single day of our lives, we are affected by politics one way or another. Even when you come here, whether the roads are paved instead of having too many potholes, whether you have the freedom to speak, whether you'll be able to fill up petrol at a reasonable price, that's all politics. So really, if young people do not take this opportunity to shape their future, then effectively we are handing over our future to those who may not represent us best.
I just want to I have my opinion is that more young people, they go online and then they became internet trolls, and they can speak out very loudly with text. But action-wise is
very different.
And then honestly, I listen to some of my younger peers. It's like when it comes to voting, they don't have an idea. So it's like my parents, they said vote for this one. Okay, I vote for this one. So do you think there's a way we can improve on this one?
I mean, definitely political literacy will help. But to say that you must be ridiculously smart as a precondition of voting is also wrong. I mean, there's so much pressure placed on young people to be remarkably smart, talented, to know the in and outs of politics before they're given the right to vote. But do we ask for the same standards to be placed on those who are 80-year-olds and above? If you ask them, do they follow politics? No. I mean, young people know a lot more than that generation, to be honest, right? I mean, We follow trends today more than ever. Young people feel a lot more comfortable to talk about political issues, and friends and family members also give their input. So I think it is unfair to pin the blame on young people only, as if like the precondition for us to vote is so much higher than those who are much older than us, who now do not even have the capacity maybe to follow the updates on politics. However, while I say that, does that mean that there's no need for political literacy? Of course not. There is a need to increase political literacy. But as I shared, your interests may not be another person's interest, and it's not right in a democracy to say that their interest does not matter. That's why whenever people say, oh my god, look, these people are disgruntled, they're angry, they only care about going on bikes and this. No, I mean, just because they may not vote like how I want them to vote, does not mean that their votes do not count. I mean, if you speak to them, you will understand they are the dissatisfied class of Malaysians who exit public education without a proper job, without proper income, without proper support. I mean, our generation is an asset-light generation. We don't have our families to fall back on because even our parents do not have enough money or funds for their retirement. I mean, we are seen to be the forgotten generation. So obviously, there's brewing dissatisfaction. So I try my best to listen instead of judging, because since when my views only the right views? In the end, it's always about finding that middle path. And if we don't do things right, then we will lose our country.
Wow, like you're saying, my views are not necessarily the right views.
Yeah, of course.
But you have to, me in the middle. All right, so being actively involved in politics, could you just walk us through your daily routine?
It depends. If I'm in war, I'll start really early in the morning. I mean, usually whenever I wake up, I'll have my fitness routine, which I'll do. And then I have my reading routine as well, whether it's, I'll start with English press, and then maybe in the afternoon Malay press, and at night I do longer research, let's say reading The Age. I always have my standard news portals, whether it's BBC, Al Jazeera, and then after that Malaysia Kini, The Star, and then in the afternoon that's why I read the Malay press, especially Sinar Harian, and at night The Age. The Age is weekly, but it's like really thick, but that's where you find a lot of analytical pieces. My fitness routine is like 3 times a day: morning, after lunch, and before going to bed. But before going to bed, it's not like 1 hour before. Usually it's about 3-4 hours before going to bed. But it's not like super intense. It's like 30 minutes, at times even 15 minutes only. Very quick, high intensity training or workout to ensure that I can catch up on my other weekly reading as well, which is The Economist. Economist is a weekly edition. Usually people buy the magazine, I subscribe to it online, I download the audio, and then whenever I do my fitness routine or when I'm traveling from one location to another, I listen to it. Because it's quite long. I think the full audio is about 12 hours a week, so I always listen to 1.5, so it becomes much faster. And then in between is usually just back-to-back meetings. Whether it's in KL or it's in Muar, or I have to travel different parts of Malaysia, I like to fill up my schedule because it gives me a sense of discipline and purpose.
So no entertainment?
As I shared, to me, my workout is my entertainment.
Your workout?
Yeah, when I go jogging, it's my entertainment. When I play badminton yesterday night until midnight, that's my entertainment. But I always try to fit it into my political schedule as well. So that's why I invite friends, political members to come together. So it's a win-win. I'm doing my job, and at the same time, I'm able to enjoy my private life.
You're 30 years old. No entertainment as in movie?
Oh, of course, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, different people have different forms of entertainments. I do subscribe to whether it's HBO, Disney, or Netflix, all three, to be honest.
Okay.
But I like to watch a lot more documentaries than movies. So on Netflix, there are so many brilliant documentaries. So it's like documentaries or movies which have a sense of purpose and education behind it, which I could learn from. So I think that gives me more happiness.
I see.
Yeah.
So your most recently seen movie?
I'm now following, I think, Family Planet. It's on Netflix. It's not a movie, it's a documentary. I don't think that's exactly the name. It's by Sir David from the UK, where he narrates about Our Earth, I think. Our Earth or something. But it's about, and he narrates about climate change and wildlife, and how they are both intricately linked to one another. Just recently he released the second batch of documentaries. The first one was I think last year. I finished it very quickly, and on the second one was just released, and I'm binge watching.
I see. Okay, because just now you mentioned a lot about reading.
Yeah.
So this one is from my boss, Adrian.
Yeah.
Actually, we caught you reading one of our books. The title is Saddiq's Digital Journey.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, okay, thank you for supporting local publication.
Yeah.
So, did you enjoy the book?
Of course, definitely. I mean, that's Senhang's, I mean, I know Senhang quite personally and the people behind it. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of the many examples where if businesses do not disrupt and change, then they will be disrupted and changed. Because today, people can just purchase their phones or digital devices and equipments online. And if traditional businesses do not adapt and change, then they will be replaced. But Senhang is one of the companies which I think has successfully transformed to adapt.
I see. Thank you so much. Can I ask just a bonus question out of the topic? It's like, so because since we are talking about books and then since we're talking our books, what do you think about local publications, the book industry here in Malaysia? Your opinion about the development, the future?
I mean, it definitely must be supported. In Malaysia, we still do not have a strong reading culture. And it's easily reflected when you look at the state of our public libraries. I mean, I don't have to go far. Just in my constituency in Muar, we used to have a decent public library which had to be demolished because it was just simply unsafe to enter anymore. And then while waiting for a replacement, now it's just like a very small segment of a office unit next to my office, which is not even a true public library, and there's no plan for a proper replacement, which I get very frustrated. I mean, while in other countries, instead of building big malls and tall skyscrapers, public libraries, which is the epicenter of intellect, should be given an ultimate priority. And that's just one of the many, many examples, right? So we don't have a strong reading habit. And I think in order for Malaysia to become a developed country, in order for us to develop good values, I think that early reading habit shapes not only who we are, but what our country will be destined to be. Secondarily, I think also it requires a lot of government support as well, not just to selected partners. But I think previously when we had the voucher buku, I think that's a good beginning, because that will stimulate the local, and not just our reading habit, but also the local book industry. But above and beyond that, I think there must be a concerted effort to ensure that people's interest in reading and connecting it to our local publications and local book industry will come in hand.
Okay, thank you so much for the insightful sharing. Okay, so back to our topic. So in your opinion, what are the most common misconceptions and stereotypes about politicians?
That politicians are in this only for themselves, that they will only appear like during elections time, that they will, I mean, there are too many There are too many stereotypes. Some are actually true, some are not. But what I can say is not all politicians are like that.
Okay.
I mean, many politicians join and take that huge sacrifice. I mean, to be very frank, I'm fairly certain I live a much better life outside of politics. Not just with less stress, but my income. I mean, heck, I remember when to forego that scholarship, that's already $500,000 ringgit. I mean, that's so much more. I mean, if that's 2-3 years of a salary as an MP. So there are many, many other ways in which I could pursue my own personal interests. However, if you join politics just for money, then this is not the right place for you lah.
Okay.
I mean, really it's not. Not just because, I mean, it's not right for the country, but also today, I think our systems of governance are stronger. If you join for money, you will go to jail. And I think there's no two way about it. So I think moving forward, I think we need a lot more young blood who will dare to change this unfortunately negative stereotypes of Malaysian politics and politicians, because those stereotypes actually build great distrust among the public to politics, and that distrust actually hurts our country more than ever. Because in the end, it will be the elected politicians who are given the responsibility and the task to shape the future of our country. And if there's great distrust between the public towards our system, then in the end, the distancing would hurt our country. But at the same time, if politicians play the same old politics, then obviously the public will not want to support them and will distance themselves. So it takes two hands to clap.
Thank you so much. I think I missed one question. So just maybe a general one. So Malaysia, the economy here. What's your view? What is your view on that? A general view on Malaysia's.
I think Malaysia is stuck in being a middle income country, in a middle income trap. We're not a failed state, nor are we a developed country. My only worry is there's not much political will and courage to really turbocharged us forward. I mean, 1980s, 1990s, then we were way ahead from many of our Asian peers. Now we fall behind, not just into countries like Singapore and South Korea, which have moved far ahead. Now, potentially even losing behind to countries like Vietnam and Indonesia. I don't think it will be a failed state, but I don't think that Malaysians want Malaysia to only become a country of complacency and mediocrity. I think we are destined to become a developed country, a successful country. Our diversity is our strength, not a weakness. And to be honest, we actually have quite a huge young population who are smart, talented, and well educated as well, in contrast to many of our regional peers. However, we're still stuck in the middle. Brain drain is at its worst level, 1.8 million young Malaysians who are talented abroad instead of picking Malaysia. And when they move abroad, it is effectively your taxpayers subsidizing their education but then servicing a different country. But you can't blame them. I mean, it's not wrong for them to leave or vote with their feet when there's not enough opportunities here. They are forced to move. It's not that they want, they are forced to move. So moving forward, I always stress back it's about it's about systems change. It's not just about leadership change. You can have the best of prime ministers, the best of parties in power, but the same old political system, Malaysia will not progress. You need a system with a open market economy in which values talents based on merits and needs. You need a system in which redistribute wealth equitably while not punishing those who do actually make profits for the country, because in the end the government is actually one of the biggest stakeholders of every single company, because government taxes 20-25% of businesses. So really, I think moving forward, we need to build a more resilient economy which is based on strong institutions, policy making which is data driven, in order for us to become a developed country.
Well, thank you so much, Saddiq, for your sharing today.
Thank you very much.